Once I started researching about MBB firms, right, the McKinsey, BCG, and Bains, I submitted the application there as well, and I did not get in, and I was like, what's happening? Why am I not getting in? I did not know that these firms have these softwares which eliminates your applications if you don't have those, the certain keywords. I did not know all that. Fortunately, one of the big 4 firms, KPMG, came in. They don't come in every year. They come in like once in 2 years for this role, and around 600 people applied for it, and 2 people got in, and I was one of them. The person who got in, so there was a guy who got from IMB, day 0, his starting pay as an associate was more than my manager's pay, who was from a tier 2 MBA college who got in through lateral entry.
Thank you very much for doing this, Sharan. I really admire what you do, the kind of content that you make, and the niche that you have picked for yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. I've been a big fan of InsideIIM for quite some time. Even I was preparing for the CAT exam. Unfortunately, did not get the good percentile. But I was definitely watching videos of InsideIIM to understand career paths which I was interested in, particularly investment banking, which I think is one of your videos which has gone really viral. So I enjoyed watching those videos and gave me a very good insight of how life would be as an investment banker, and even in management consulting, which I eventually became.
Sharan, please tell them that we have not paid you to say this.
No, I have not been paid.
Superb. Sharan, let's get back to understanding you, your story, your journey a little bit here. Because, that's what we do. We all know the Sharan, we all know the face that you put up on Instagram every day.
Yeah.
But we don't know who Sharan actually is, what kind of a personality you are, and what you have gone through to reach wherever you are right now. So tell me a little bit first about, are you a Bangalore kid, or was there a different origin story that you have?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Mangalore, which is a coastal town very close to Kerala border of Karnataka. Beautiful city, known for its seafood and good hospitals and good education. So I did my schooling there. I was a very arrogant kid back then, because I went to ICSE, and that was the only ICSE school in Mangalore.
Wow, that gives you a lot of leverage.
That gives you a lot of, not just leverage, it gives you a lot of...
brownie points.
Not just brownie points, I would say ego, right? You think you're better than others. And that's what happened with me. So I was at ICSE school. When I was a kid, I asked my mom, why do people study? Because I did not like to study. And then she told me, people study to become rich. That's the single answer she gave me, right? And money back then was super important to me, because I was not allowed to purchase anything more than $100. And I really wanted to buy the Beyblade back then, when it was, all the rage back then, and it cost around $300. And I had
Sorry, I'm a little unaware of this. Beyblade is what?
Beyblade. You don't know what's a Beyblade?
No.
Beyblade is that thing which you rip. It was a cartoon series as well. It used to come right after Dragon Ball Z. How do you not know this?
Oh my God. Sorry, guys. Sorry, did I offend you guys? Okay, sorry. No, I was not aware of it. Okay, so Dragon Ball Z then?
Yeah, it comes after Dragon Ball Z. So I was a big fan, watched every single episode, and I had to plead my parents to get me there, and I got it. So that made me realize how important money is. So once my mom told me that, you study to become rich, then I went full on, all engines on. I used to attend, I used to be like the student's pet, finish homework in school itself, forget coming back at home, right? And then study whatever is taught that same day, right? So eventually, I was always in the top 1, top 2 of the class. So that built a lot of ego, thinking I was better than everybody, and I thought I would want to change the world. I'm a very smart guy, I'll be a scientist, something like that. And then what happened was I went to Expert, which is a cram school in Mangalore itself, where people study from 7 in the morning to 7 in the evening. And it's like the toppers from all over the state come to that school. And I was in the first batch, where the toppers of the toppers are in that class. Right, so the average percentage of 10 stand there was something like 94, 95%, and I had 93%, right? So I was a nobody in that class, and that really, brought me down.
With 93%, you were a nobody.
I was a nobody.
Wow.
I was barely in the top 5. Maybe I could count the number of times I was in the top 5 in that class. So it was that low. So I was a nobody, and that really brought down the ego. I realized, I'm not smart enough to be a scientist. So what's next? No, let's do engineering. And then I studied. I thought advanced. I want to get into the IITs. After first year, I realized this is too hard for me. I can't do this. Then I thought I'll prepare.
Why did you why did you realize that it's too hard for you?
I mean, it's too hard, man. The questions are so complicated. I mean, I don't know how to put it in an easier way.
But you wanted to be a scientist.
Yeah, that's what I realized, right? I'm not that smart. I mean, there are much smarter people than me, right? And IIT questions are so hard that I just realized this is not for me. And then I thought, okay, let me at least try to get into the NITs. 'Cause that was the bare minimum which I had. And then in that, I got into civil, and then my parents were like, no, you should get into mechanical. That's like the evergreen branch. And then actually, I wanted computer science, but my sister already did computer science, so they had to diversify, their talking points. So they, you take mechanical engineering, but it's evergreen. So I got mechanical engineering at RV College. I got CS and PES as well, PES, which is another great college here. But my parents told me, why don't you go with RV College? So that's what happened. Went to RV College, took mechanical engineering. Even though I'm not doing anything related to mechanical engineering now, but I had a wonderful time, right? I was part of this academic club which builds Formula One race cars from scratch, right? We build everything, except for the engine. So I had a blast, working in that team for 4 years. We traveled to several countries for competitions. We became the first Indian team to secure a podium finish at an international event. So I had a lot of fun at RV College. And you have I think
Sorry,
I'm speaking for a long time.
Yeah, it seems like you are in a monologue and you are telling me the story. I don't mind that, but I have a few questions that I wanted to ask you here. First up is the makers of, what was it? Beyblade.
Beyblade, yeah.
Beyblade. The makers of Beyblade, if they are watching this, they will be like, oh, we have created a superstar. Because, a lot of times what happens is you are pressurized to do something. You are made to believe that this is what you will do so that your life becomes better, right? Was that a case with you at any point where people have said that, acha, engineering is something that you must do in order to make sure that you have a great life ahead, or you see that so many people are doing it, your friends are doing it, why are you not doing it?
Yeah, so for me it was not, I had no doubt in my mind because I was surrounded by every single person who I was interacting with, either wanted to be an engineer or a doctor. I was not exposed to anybody who was doing anything else. So my world was just that. I was in this small bubble. And also I was fed the story that engineering is what's looked up in the society. So I did not even bother doing my own research. I was not using internet for researching about my career or whatever. I was using it for the wrong reasons. So, so I had no idea at all. I was in this bubble that engineering it is, and I was just mindlessly going to classes and studying and taking it one step at a time. I had no clear vision in mind until the third year of my engineering. That's when I had come back home, and then I was just it was just being me reflecting upon my entire life, right? It's one of those days where you just think about your entire life from scratch, and you're just thinking, what is it that you want to do in life? What next? And I remember being very frustrated with myself and being completely clueless and worried of what I'm going to do with my life. And that's when I started doing research for the first time. The 2 weeks that I was at my parents' home, that's when I started using internet for the right reasons, started researching properly. And that's when I came across, InsideIIM, YouTube pages like that, and started reading, started watching videos on those kind of things. And that's when I realized, a career path in management consulting or investment banking would be a right fit for me because it at least sounds glamorous, at least when you read it. And compared to, at least, doing an MTech or doing a master's in something related to engineering, this sounded more interesting to me because it gives you an opportunity to work in teams and solve business problems. And that point of time, it sounded very interesting to me. I mean, obviously, you won't know until you actually do it, but at that point of time, it sounded interesting to me, and that's what I wanted to do.
Right. Tell me a little bit about the engineering life that you have had. You said that you went to a place where you were just, mingling with top of the top classes, right? With super high percentages. But in engineering colleges, the scenario is a little different. Right. So what sort of people did you meet there? Did your life sort of change there, meeting these people there and, understanding that there's more to life than just academics?
Yeah, absolutely. So, at every stage of your life, you are kind of getting out of your bubble. So in school, you're in one bubble. And then school versus my PUC, which is expert, which is what's called here, 11th and 12th. That bubble was not significantly different from my school, Because it's again, people who are just super focused on academics and that's it, nothing else, right? We don't talk about life or whatever. Once you go to engineering, that's a very different melting pot because there you have people from multiple states, right? So that bubble is so much bigger now. So every stage of your academic career or academic life or a professional career, you are exposed to new perspectives of life. So when I went to engineering, obviously I started interacting with people from different backgrounds, people who are actively spending time on extracurricular activities, which was not something that I was used to, right? Because when I was in school and in my 11th and 12th, there was no, playing ground itself. Nothing, right? And for sports event, we had to go to some stadium, which is, the Bangalore's main stadium. We didn't have our own stadium. So sports was not even on our agenda, right? So going to engineering and seeing that people are actively spending time, taking time out of their day on extracurricular things like acting, singing, dancing. So all that was very, was a new world to me. So interacting with those kind of people broadened my horizons and made me realize that, it's not just about studies anymore. You need to do all these sort of things to stand out.
Did you learn the nuances of acting there only? Or were you part of it?
I didn't, but I was really intrigued. I always liked to see acting. I used to watch plays and all, so I really enjoyed watching them. Whatever I do right now, whether you call it acting or not, it's purely to trial and error.
There's definitely some bit of acting there, right?
Yeah, it's purely to trial and error, just watching yourself in the camera over and over again. And every take is like, 15 takes, 16 retakes. It looks simple, 30 seconds, but it takes an hour these days to shoot that 30-second clip. So it's just watching myself do it over and over again.
That's an average time that it takes to shoot one reel of 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's what it takes these days, yeah.
Okay, so Sharan, help me understand this. You were in your third year, you said, and then you started watching a lot of these videos, which made you feel that management consulting is something or IB is something that you wanted to be, right? So when the placement season start, right, what were the kind of companies that you were aiming and what was the story behind you actually getting through one of them? What was that company that you got through?
I'll tell you. So firstly, I wanted to take matters in my own hand. Even before the placement started, I wanted to get into a consulting firm, like try to get the off-campus placement kind of a thing. So even before it started, I started my efforts. So I reached out to the top IB firms first. And there I realized through interacting with people who are already in the space, they told me that it is almost next to impossible with an engineering degree from a tier 2 college. You need to have at least some sort of financial qualification to get into IB is what I learned. So I applied, I submitted my application on all their websites. Obviously you get the generic email back saying, as much as we'd like to get you in, we don't have a spot right now, that sort of emails. So then I shifted to management consulting. So the reason I considered management consulting as well is because I wanted to do MBA. Now, for MBA, there are some career paths which are feeder career paths to MBA colleges. Now, the top two feeder career paths are investment banking and management consulting. So, management consulting, I didn't know what it was back then. Investment banking, I had that inclination because I liked finance. But for management consulting, I had no idea what it was. I explored it because the website told me that, it is a feeder to MBA colleges. So, I started exploring about that.
So, MBA was in your cards?
It was from the third year of engineering. Right? That's when I started doing that research and I realized MBA is what I want to do. So once I started researching about MBB firms, right, the McKinsey, BCG and Bains, I submitted the application there as well and I did not get in and I was like, what's happening? Why am I not getting in? I did not know that these firms have these softwares which eliminates your applications if you don't have those, the certain keywords. I did not know all that.
Were you guys aware of it?
Yeah, I did not know back then. So then what I did was, I reached out to these HRs on LinkedIn because I was so frustrated. I wanted to reach out to them. I got their number and I spoke to them. And one person, I won't name the MBB firm, but one HR person told me that they don't openly say it, but if for the analyst role, which is the entry-level role, MBA guys get into as an associate, but for the analyst roles,
every engineer becomes an analyst.
They said if you don't belong to forget IIT, IIT Bombay, IIT Delhi, and IIT Madras. If you don't belong to these three IIT colleges, and a few other, I think BITS Pilani as well, if you don't belong to these colleges, they don't even give you a second glance. No, they won't even read it. Forget. It's like reject. And then, because they have so many applications coming from these colleges itself, that they don't even give time for other colleges. And honestly, you can't blame them because they also have a limited amount of time. And also the clients themselves, since it's a client-facing role, they demand for people who have good pedigree, right, who are from IITs and IIMs. So if I say RV College, that's where I'm from. That's known in Bangalore. But let's say a client in Mumbai or a client in Delhi has no idea what an RV college is. So that is the reason for that. So that was a huge blow for me. And then I was like, okay, now let's go to campus placements. And fortunately, one of the big 4 firms, KPMG, came in. They don't come in every year. They come in like once in 2 years for this role. And around 600 people applied for it. And 2 people got in, and I was one of them. So that's how I got in.
So from 600 people, you have to fight out for one position that was open for KPMG. Right?
Yeah.
When you went in there, the sort of work that you were doing, the sort of life that you have had there, did you like it? Did you think that this is something that I wanted to do, or this is what I was aiming for in my life?
Once I got into consulting, yeah, absolutely. So I had no idea what to expect once I was in consulting. So I'll tell you how I got into it firstly.
Sure.
Because most people don't do this, especially when they're in engineering, is to prepare for case interviews. Like most people know what KPMG is, it's a big brand and all that, but they don't prepare for the interviews because they think it's going to be some normal interview. They don't do their research. Because I had done the research, spent hours on how to get into consulting firms, I knew that there is this book called Case in Point, which is the consulting Bible for case interviews. People get to know about this once they're in IIMs, right? So because when I was interacting with people in KPMG who were from IIM colleges, they told me that they had never heard of this book until they got into IIMs, right? So I had that advantage because I knew this book, this source. So I read that book cover to cover, right, before the interviews.
How did you come to know about it?
Research. So I was just going through a lot of websites, right? So I understood research, read that book cover to cover, and I killed the interviews, because I knew everything that could be asked. Any kind of business case interview, I had a proper answer to it. So they were impressed, so that's how I got in. Now, once I got into consulting, the notion is that, that was my first job. Nobody knows how a job is going to be, right? So I was just sitting at my desk, waiting for work to come to me. That's not how it works in consulting. Consulting, getting in is just one part of the work. To excel at consulting, you need to network with your peers. Because there is something called chargeability, which is calculated as the percentage of time which is spent on giving client work. Now, to give client work or to work with client, you need to get picked for projects. Getting picked for projects is done by managers and directors. Now, when you're a newbie, a fresher, they're hesitant to pick you, right? Because you don't know anything. And plus, I did not have the good pedigree. I'm from RV College. There are only 2 people from RV College. Everybody else, the analysts, they're from IIT and BITS. And all the associates were from IIMs. So getting picked for projects is difficult. So is
there like this inherent bias that's there in all the big firms that's there?
I don't know about other firms, but in my firm there definitely was. Not just from the point of getting picked for project, but also from the point of getting the salary. Right? I remember even within IIMs there is these grades. Like IIM ABC is like the top tier, and within that day 0 is the uppermost top tier.
Whoever is picked on day 0, they'll have higher salaries.
They have the person who got in. So there's a guy who got from IMB day 0. His starting pay as an associate was more than my manager's pay, who was from a tier 2 MBA college who got in through lateral entry. So there's a lot of disparity. And this he was an innocent guy. He told how much he's getting paid. So that thing spread across the organization. And then the managing partner had to address the entire organization and say, his response was this only, right? He's a day 0 candidate. So the consulting firms have to give a higher pay to get day 0 candidates. So there's definitely a huge disparity. And I wouldn't blame them. It's because that's what Indian clients demand. Indian clients, so consulting firms charge a bomb. Everybody knows that, right? A typical consulting project would be anywhere from 1.5 to 2 crores, like a 3 months or 4 months engagement. Now, you need to give a justification to the client why this is so. One of the selling points is that the people who are working for you are from IIM ABC. That's one selling point. Like if they say IMK, IMI and all those these are great colleges, but for the most Indians, it's like ABC is in their head, right? So that's what they want.
Because the alphabets start from that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the ranking, so that's what they look at. So that's the brutal truth of what happened in my consulting firm, at least.
When you were at KPMG, were you looking for other options as well that you can delve into, or consulting was something that you wanted to build your career on?
So I approached my time at KPMG as an opportunity to learn what I want to do. So consulting, as you know, you get exposed to multiple industries. over a short period of time. And these are like short 2 to 3 month engagements. So you get to learn a lot in a very short period of time. So I worked in the e-commerce space. I worked with startups such as, I worked with a startup which was disrupting the interior designing space. I worked with banks and NBFCs. So a lot of experience over a short period of time. So I was just taking it one day at a time, trying to get whatever project I could get, because like I said, I was not a preferred employee at that back then until you gain that experience. So I was taking whatever I could get and perform the best version of what I could be. I was not really looking for external opportunities at that point of time. I was more into building relationships and learning from my peers, because it was a fantastic environment, learning from my IIM friends.
How does it feel, you are a fresh graduate, this is your first job, and
Yeah.
you are seeing people being picked ahead of you,
Yeah.
just because you don't have a particular degree or a,
Yeah.
brand name associated with it.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
You can't. It feels like shit. So what I did was I stayed back in the office. No work, but I still want to stay back in the office just to show that I'm there, right? Hey, I'm there, right? So what I did was I was scared to walk up to partners and directors, right? I was just, just sitting on my desk and waiting for work to come to me. It was not coming. I was getting like, chota mota work like, yeah, research kar do, tell me what is the data points, do all that sort of stuff, which is, I mean, it's interesting, but it gets boring after some point of time. You want something big, right? So what I did was, one evening I just sat in the office till like 9 in the night until everybody left. But I knew that the director will stay, and he stayed. So it was just me and him. I walk up to him. I had the courage. I walk up to him and I say, "Hey, please give me a project." I must have said in better words, but basically that's what the message was. I want a project. I'm really interested in financial modeling. I'm like, don't even give me chargeability, because chargeability is the KPI which determines your performance at the end of the year, your bonus, increment, promotion, all of that. I said, don't even give me chargeability, I'm just here to learn. Just include me in your project. That's what I said to him. He was impressed, and next day he sent me to the client side for a project.
Was he impressed because the chargeability was not there?
I don't know, but I was really thankful for that, because that sort of kickstarted my career in consulting, because that's my first project. And once you get the first project, then the word spreads around. You get your project rating. So even though I did not get the chargeability, I was given a project rating. And that project rating, and then managers and directors talk to each other. So then after that, the project started coming in, and I was never out of chargeability.
It's like a big break, you are recognized now. Now your brand or your identity or your past does not matter.
Right.
The project matters.
Right. I mean, I wouldn't say it doesn't matter. It still matters, but still having that one project in your belt, because it's recorded in the system. And then other managers, so there's a complete dashboard for managers to filter people, right? They will put filters like, which college, ratings, average rating, all of that, and they'll get the set of employees who fit those criteria. So I at least got into the system with that one experience. So that is what made a little bit difference. And then after that, it is, director telling another director like, hey, there's this guy who just worked with me. He's pretty good. You can take him up. He's very good at. So sometimes what happens is, if you're good at a certain skill set within consulting, mostly consultants, they use Excel and Microsoft PowerPoint. So I was good at Excel. So then I also started upskilling myself on some new tools like Tableau and Power BI, which back then, it was 4 years back, it was not really mainstream in consulting, and many people were still using Excel to build those visuals and all of that. And in Tableau and Power BI, it can look very pretty, right? So I learned that, and that was a differentiator for me, and managers started picking me just for that particular skill set of mine. And once you get into the project, you learn more about the project, and then that's how you start building your reputation.
Right. So how long you stayed in KPMG? Were there kind of, for anybody who is getting the first project, it's a special project. But were there any special projects that you worked on where you thought that this is way out of my league, but I'm going to kill it?
Yeah, so this one project where I was sent to Thrissur in Kerala. This project was working with a bank, and the objective was to fire people. That is the objective, right? This bank had around 630 odd branches, and the management knew that they were overstaffed, but these employees had a union, so they can't just fire people like that. So the branch managers the management wanted us to tell them, are they adequately staffed in the different branches that they have? If not, how many people should we remove from every branch? How many people should we reallocate across different branches? and how do we remove them eventually, because these are, what is that, union, they are part of the union. So so it was just me and a manager. So the manager was just like overseeing the project, but I was given the main responsibility for doing the project end to end. That was my first project where I was given responsibility end to end. I had about 1.5 years of experience, and that was my first project that I had given full responsibility of, and I was stationed at there, alone. And I did not even speak the language, right? I was trying to speak in, Hindi and English, right? But most people don't speak English there. So that is what happened, and somehow I figured out a way to do it. We had to travel extensively across Kerala, traveled 50 different locations over a span of 2 weeks. So had a blast. I'm a big foodie and I love to travel. So we traveled to different locations. We spoke to branch managers across Kerala, and we built a financial model to adequately calculate how many employees are required based on the product mix and all of that, how much customers are coming in and all of that. So we were able to build a model, and finally we said that they need to fire I believe it was 60 people, and that would save about 2.5 crores annually. And we said, you can't fire them right away, but you wait for some people to leave and don't hire new people in those branches where people are leaving. Because we told them exactly how many people are required in every branch. So whenever a person is leaving, before they wouldn't know that whether they need a replacement for that person or not, but now because of our project, they knew exactly whether to replace that person or not. So that was the project.
Right, okay. So from KPMG, you decided that you want to move to PwC, right? When did that...
I'll tell you. So what happened was KPMG, so when the promotion cycle was about to happen, pandemic hit. That is when the pandemic hit. And the managing partner said, no promotions that year, no increments also that year, right? Nothing. And that was obviously disheartening for most of us. And I was actually preparing for my MBA also. So having a promotion in your record is important to show progression in your career. And that did not happen. So I was like, okay, promotion did not happen. Now I need to do something different. And I had a lot of free time, obviously, because travel stopped. We were just doing work from home.
Right.
So I had a lot of free time. So I did some NGO work with United Nations. So it's an online project. So I worked with an NGO based out of Cameroon, which is a country in Africa. So we worked with some refugees there we conducted surveys for the refugees to understand what kind of development activities we can do. So I did that, and then that got over. And then my content consumption increased, right? I started watching a lot of YouTube videos. I came across this content creator called Ali Abdal, who is a productivity content creator.
Yeah.
I was really inspired by what he was doing. He was just 25, I was 25, so that really resonated with me. This guy is selling courses, making $1 million as
and
a doctor.
He's a doctor.
And he's a doctor. So if he can do it, why can't I do it? And I thought, what am I good at? I'm good at personal finance. So I thought I'll start creating YouTube videos on that. That's when I started, during the pandemic. And then as I was doing it, in the initial phase, it was very difficult. So that's when I took a call to quit KPMG and focus on my content creation for at least like 1 or 2 months dedicatedly to at least see where it can go.
So you quit KPMG because you wanted to do YouTube.
That's why I wanted to do content creation. So it was a big risk, but I took it. Right? So I did that. I did that for like 2 to 3 months. So YouTube was a really hard game to crack. I did that for like...
Why does it become so hard, in your opinion?
Because it is already saturated, YouTube, and YouTube doesn't give you reach like what Instagram does. YouTube is a search engine. If a person is not searching for the content that you have created, you're never going to show up in his feed, unless you're MKBHD or someone like that. So it's very difficult on YouTube. So I did like 10 videos, and then I thought, why don't I promote my YouTube videos on Instagram? That's when I opened Finance with Sharan on Instagram, only to promote my YouTube videos on Instagram. Like the story feature, put my YouTube video ka link. No, the link is not there unless you have 10,000 followers back then. So you just put the YouTube video and say, hey guys, check this out.
How much time did it take to reach the 10,000 mark for you?
I'll tell you. So first thing what I did is send out a broadcast message to everybody that you know in your entire life. all your WhatsApp groups, all your Facebook groups, your Messenger groups, whatever you have in your life, whoever you know.
Even email people.
Sorry?
Even email people, email IDs if you have.
Email I didn't do, but every person that I ever knew in my life, maybe around 500, 600 people, sent out a broadcast message. Out of that, 80 people joined.
Right.
So that was my first 80 followers.
That's a good conversion rate.
That is a good conversion. Right? These are my true friends, the 80 people who came. And they're mostly there because they're my friends. They're not there for the content. Those are like, those are what you call pity followers, right? They're just there for you, not for the content, right? But that is what you need. That is what you need to do shamelessly in the beginning. Then I started putting out reels because reels started picking up. Initially I was not sure. My sister was the one she's the one who's social media savvy. I'm a person who was posting 5 pictures on my personal page in a year. That's the kind of person I was. So my sister, who was social media savvy, she told me, you need to start putting reels. And I was like, what's a reel? And then she's like, it's like TikTok. I'm like, I can't do TikTok. What the hell are you talking about? Then
why would you say that?
Sorry?
Why would you say that? Like going back, like looking at 2020,
yeah.
while you were making content, why would you say that I can't do TikTok?
Because TikTok back then had a bad reputation for, it was viral, but it was mostly, people dancing and people, doing some non-educational stuff basically, right? I did not really like watching those kind of content. I don't know, maybe ego or attitude, I don't know. So I thought maybe, TikTok, I looked down upon TikTok back then, right? So I thought I can't do TikTok, right? So then, even then, there was this term called TikTok stars, right? So that was a funny thing as well. So I was with that mindset, but then my sister pushed me. So I still remember I went to the terrace, held up my selfie camera like this, spent like half an hour to shoot a 10-second video. And this was not skits or anything, no costumes or nothing.
Or costume or anything.
It is just me with the selfie camera and talking into the camera. That took me half an hour to shoot. In the terrace. So that was my first video. So that's how I started. And then after 10 videos, there was some good traction. We reached around 700 followers in like 1 month. And then what happened was me and my sister did a collab on a trend. This is this dangerous trend, this Akon song. This is a dangerous song, like where you shake the cup. That was a trend back then. So me and my sister did this where we are depicting that she's exiting her fixed deposits and moving into mutual funds. And there is a fear associated with that because she doesn't have any fixed deposit investments. That video went viral. It got 1 million views. And that took me from 800 followers to 10,000 followers in a week. So that's how it happened.
What was the journey till this point? Look, for 700 followers, how much time did you spend?
1 month.
1 month.
Yeah.
And in the next 1 week, you were in 10,000.
I got the 9,300 came in the next 1 week.
Superb.
Yeah. You just need one viral video to reach 10,000 followers. Even today, you need one viral video to reach 10,000 followers. So 10,000 followers has become very easy to do.